up, sports fans? Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Stacked week. NFL free agency week 2 continues. World Baseball Classic. March Madness. We are just beyond busy all throughout this whole week on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your day. Bottom half of the hour, former Major Leaguer Carter Capps is going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about the crucial, controversial call that happened in the World Baseball Classic last night, and so much to discuss with all of you guys as far as NFL free agency. I am excited for today. So much to discuss. And I do think it's really interesting how it's all really going to be, broken down with as far as the World Baseball Classic goes. So I want to start from there. Last night, really crucial. And I'll be honest, however you looked at it in that game was what it was going to be. We have all complained about the automated strike zones. We have all complained basically about all of this stuff. And yes, it is very, very crucial, but I will tell you, United States came out on top, and all it came down to was pitching. You had arguably a powerhouse of a lineup with the Dominican Republic, which we know every year. And Albert Pujols put together a great roster for the World Baseball Classic. But the only difference is that pitching, and then not to mention opportunities around the bases, opportunities at the plate, it didn't quite pan out the way the Dominican wanted. But we all know, even from those pitching zones, and this is something every time, all of us as fans, whether it's, referees in a football game, umpires in a baseball game, ice refs in a hockey game, it doesn't matter. Every single referee that goes to control any game, it all comes down to how they manage it. So the United States, I give them credit for fighting as close of a game as they did. And by the way, this will now be once again the third straight year that they've made it into the final. 2017, they won it all. And then the last time in 23 was the big time strikeout between two former teammates, Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. So I think this has been a fantastic tournament because the fact that Venezuela upset Japan and Shohei Ohtani, which again, this World Baseball Classic has been defined in several different avenues here. It has, because it's a global stage, much like the Olympics, but at the same time, you could see the talent pool continue to grow and it continues to prosper. And to me, all it had to take was smart pitching, get guys on base, find ways to score runs and win those games. And now they haven't looked as pretty, but remember, Dominican in the last couple games, especially in the pool plays, were outscoring a lot of their opponents because they have such a stacked roster from top to bottom. Junior Caminero, who came out with the home run Fernando Tatis Jr. There are so many great all-stars on this roster that the minute they got shut down by the United States pitching, it all changed from there. And I know the crucial pitching spots where that completely missed the pitching zone. There is no way USA would have made it through had it not been for that. Well, you're right. But there also were a couple of different crucial calls that should have changed the atmosphere of the game. Number one, what was Fernando Tatis doing on the baselines? There's many mental mistakes. I've been saying this about Major League Baseball, like I say about a lot of postseason games. Every time we get to this conversation and we get to this point, people lose sight of what it means to actually play the game of chess. Most fans out there want to have the scores ran up, and they want to have all the big viewerships because chicks dig the long balls. It doesn't matter with pitching. It doesn't matter with defense. They don't care about that. They just care about run up the scores, make it interesting. Oh, my God, that Aaron Judge is an all-star superstar. That's what they care about is their stars. Whereas if you actually watch the chess play matchups, you paid attention to how crucial pitching was, how crucial defensively these guys have to make plays, especially the infield, because we all know when a tight game of a 2-1 score gets, anybody could tie and potentially come back and win the game. You could see this as well when it comes to the hockey games. I mean, we saw United States beat Canada 2-1 in an overtime. And that was both the men's and women's team in the Olympics. So anything can happen in this regard. But I felt like, yes, that looked a lot like a crucial, controversial pitch that we all knew probably missed a little bit more down low than we thought. But you also have to take into consideration, there was a spot in which where it may have crossed that plane and then drops. Everybody knows breaking pitches. You can't always, narrow these down 110% accurately. It just happens. Now, if it's fully in the box, then that's a different story. I've seen those calls hundreds of times, and it's usually never a fun, it's never a fun discussion at all. But I'm very proud of this team. They're back into the final for the third straight year. And now we got tonight between Italy and Venezuela to go to the final. And I think these two have been very great, scrappy teams. But USA, what had to happen is that they needed to get their guys up and on base. They needed to get some base hits. They needed to end up executing a lot when it came to pitching spots. Because anytime when you end up tapping into the bullpen, and remember, Paul Skeens went through about 5 innings, and then they ended up tapping in, and their entire bullpen was scoreless all night. That bullpen was very strong. Now, I'll make the argument, what was better, 26 or the 17 World Baseball Classic team? I felt like the 2017 World Baseball Classic team definitely had firepower. I think the pitching staff was also very crucial that year that won them the title and the gold medal. To me personally, I think 26, yes, you have a lot of all-stars. But what I have a hard time with is usually when they come up to the plate in some of these scoring situations, lots of them either want to go for yard or some of them they end up going empty. And to me, you got to end up playing the game. It hasn't changed. It's all a game of chess. If you cannot pay attention to that and respect the fact that strong bullpen pitching really is a team's best friend, that's where you really have to get crucial into postseason games. I mean, look at the NFL. Running the ball, strong defenses, physical plays, and finding something that will make the other team crack is usually what happens in the postseason. I mean, think about it. This Super Bowl was all run game, defense, until New England cracked. That's really what it came down to. This is similar. The entirety of the atmosphere in games like this have not changed. It's very much mental control. And so Team USA makes it through. They're in the final. Very exciting day. And I look forward to tomorrow on Tuesday night on how this will end up. So I wanted to talk about this because last week And I was calling this, and I've been talking about this for about a month and a half because it just makes too much sense. So the Minnesota Vikings did exactly as I had predicted that they would, and they went and signed quarterback Kyler Murray to a one-year deal. So this is so crucial and important for just the state of the NFC North, and not to mention the Minnesota Vikings for a few reasons. So let's focus on the Vikings real quick. First of all, Kevin O'Connell, I love him as a coach. They've got a great roster on offense. TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jordan Mason, and you also have Aaron Jones back on a restructured deal for 1 year. Now, the only thing that really was crucial was Minnesota, like 65% of the league, whiffed on their franchise quarterback because J.J. McCarthy, injuries, inconsistencies, and wasn't really confident there in the pocket. And that's what really struggled for Minnesota all last year. And not to mention, I mean, I love Brian Flores as a defensive coach, and he does a lot of great wonders. And honestly, I think this could be a year in which he already let Jonathan Grenard and Javon Hargrave walk away. And so right now, I have a feeling that when it comes to Minnesota, they have to take advantage of the window that they are in. It may not be too big of a defensive roster, but it's good enough because they have a competent defensive coordinator. And Brian Flores will make anything work. Andrew Van Ginkel, a bunch of other really good vets. They also let Harrison Smith, they also released him as well. And this is only week 2 of the free agent pool. So there's lots of options from here. But why was this very crucial? They have a very good offensive roster. They're going to be paying a bunch of money on that side of the ball, and that's exactly what Kevin O'Connell does. You know, he's an offensive-minded coach, makes a lot of things work. But also, the Vikings really needed to rebound from the decision of letting Sam Darnold walk to the Seattle Seahawks, who is now a Super Bowl champion, and Daniel Jones, who for 8 weeks went 7-1 with the Colts and had a great run game. And as long as he was confident with Jonathan Taylor running the ball and then a lot of different play action moves, that was where the Colts really made a lot of big time plays. And Minnesota lacked that. The minute that J.J. McCarthy came in and then injuries, they had to put in Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer. It was downhill. It was a tire fire waiting to explode. And now, J.J. McCarthy, you start to see what kind of quarterback that he is. I do not see this being as tough of a competition as most people would think it is because, yes, J.J. has to prove to himself that all the headlines, he's a game manager. The minute that he came out of college in Michigan, had a great roster up and in front of him and had a great defense. Okay, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards was running the ball efficiently well. The offensive line protected him. And then you had big plays like Roman Wilson and a couple others. And Jim Harbaugh, of all people, who could figure out an offense. And I think JJ now, because you're with an offensive-minded coach, they end up passing it up and along to Kevin O'Connell, kind of like you're on autopilot. But unfortunately, now he has to end up rebuilding the confidence. And I don't know if he can. And with Kyler Murray, this is what I was also explaining about too. You can recall, lots of the old Leatherheads could actually end up recalling this one. But do you recall of what the offense looked like with Fran Tarkenton back then in Minnesota? He was small, accurate, threw the big play, and was very mobile. Kyler, smaller, mobile, accurate, can throw the deep ball. Why can't you recreate an offense like this? And I think that's quite possible that he can. So Kevin O'Connell working with Kyler Murray, I think this is also a morale booster because in the end, change of scenery was very much needed. I don't think the relationship with Arizona was very close and very tight. And we know that as a number 1 overall pick, you have to make them work because otherwise there's just going to be a lot of scrutiny. There's going to be a lot of criticisms. And I don't think Kyler Murray really wants to be in that business either. So, and Kyler really has to reshape and refocus. But with this, with Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and Jordan Addison, who knows if they go and get another receiver in the draft. Then now you have a very good offense that now pushes you to want to play better. And so Kyler has all of the weapons now in front of him. And not to mention, too, I mean, they were working on the offensive line with Arizona. It hadn't quite peaked itself yet. But in Minnesota, they had a pretty, a pretty, I would say, average offensive line, but still good enough that they could contain the blocks. So I think this could work out for them. And Kyler is the kind that if you utilize his legs and speed, he will end up getting first downs. Okay, that's what you want him to do. Keep possessions on the offense and find ways to win time of possession. That's the one way that you can honestly do this. But for J.J. McCarthy, it comes down to a reality check. And a lot of quarterbacks go through this all the time. All right, it happens. Quarterbacks that ultimately go through this kind of deal, oftentimes, it sucks. It's hard. And I understand the frustration behind it all. So hopefully this allows JJ now to do one of two things. It can either push him to be a better quarterback, or it will find a different trade suitor and probably would have to ship him off and then have to try it again. This is why I always say 65% of the league that whiff on quarterbacks, oftentimes it's hard because quarterback is the one place you really have to nail. If you don't nail that position, then finding ways of getting your future up and intact usually is very difficult. And listen, it doesn't always have to be in the draft. Finding your franchise quarterbacks could also be in the free agent market. Just go look at Sam Darnold. Go look at Baker Mayfield. They all were in the free agent pool, and they all found homes, and they got paid very respectfully for it. Lots to discuss. World Baseball Classic around the corner. Carter Capps is going to be joining us here on the program. I'm really excited about it. So I wonder about the state of the AFC North because of the fact of lots of teams, the Ravens, the Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. The Bengals, I think, really reshaped up their defense. I think they'll probably add more into the draft, but I do think there's going to be a lot of change-ups. But however, I just don't know if the AFC North could truthfully be the AFC North as what it's been for 10 straight years. So that's going to be coming up. And also talking about the new look Tennessee Titans. They got brand new unis. They're bringing back the old school Houston Oilers look to them. I'm actually really excited about it. Kind of fun that we get a chance to come back into the throwbacks, and now it's their everyday wear. Really excited about it. But I think, too, there's a lot more meaning to it because of Robert Saleh and what he's about to do in Tennessee. All right, folks. It's been a fun start out here in 2026, but I will say that you're trying to start off your 2026 in March. I had just found out and had done a lot of research, and the leading causes now, this was actually a proven study from a lot of the medical fields talking about the leading causes of death in the nation. And they've come back and have found out that lung cancer now has actually toppled a lot of the other different cases that has now become the leading cause of death. And what connects to it? That's cigarette smoke. That's vaping. That's also chewing tobacco, and everything that gets into your lungs really ends up doing a lot of damage and has now become the leading cause of death in the States. So for a lot of people that are struggling with their nicotine kick and they're trying to find ways and alternatives to getting away from the cigarettes, and then not to mention the vaping, especially here in Colorado, where they have now passed a law where they are trying to keep vaping away from a lot of the teenagers in school. And it has become a huge impact. But the best way to nail and slap your cravings is with Slap Bowl. They are very flavorful, comes in 6 different flavors: apple, sour apple, watermelon, mint, lemon, peach, you name it. Lots of great flavors, longer lasting, and find ways and alternatives for you to nail down and slap your nicotine kicks, and eventually until you quit. It's not easy, trust me. I know a lot of people who have gone through this road. It's difficult, but if you're looking for that alternative that can eventually get you to quit, and stop and lower down what has now become the leading cause of death in the United States, try Slapple for yourself today. Link in the description. Slap your cravings with Slapple today.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing deal of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
So, free agency week 1 wrapped up last week, and we are now up and on to week 2. So, what does it usually mean when it comes to the free agent market this time around? More of these deals start to become much more of a bargain deal than anything else, and there's still room for lots of moves to be made. And so I was thinking about this because one division in particular, and we've already talked about how much it shocked the NFL world, which was the Max Crosby trade that obviously fell through, and he's no longer going to Baltimore. Baltimore's got both their first-round picks back. So I'm looking at the state of the AFC North because the Pittsburgh Steelers, let's start there. They obviously need a quarterback, and who knows who is going to quarterback this organization, because Will Howard, maybe potentially, but I don't know if I have a whole lot of confidence in Will Howard, in my opinion, because of the way of which he was built at Ohio State. And I couldn't stress it enough. And I think with the Steelers, they did get a number 2 receiver in Michael Pittman, who the Colts ended up trading away. I thought it was a very impressive pickup by the Steelers. Very surprised of that, but the offensive line still gives me question marks, because now you also have a run game that I think is interesting now with Rico Dowdle and also with Jalen Warren. I really do think that with Rico Dowdle, I would go with him as the everyday back. And Jalen Warren, I think personally, would be the kind that I could really see him go back and forth and really work on for split carries, either that or 60-40. I think this could really help out with what I really do think this could help out a lot with what the Steelers have been dealing with and what they have been trying to fix up for quite a while. But that's why this offensive line really has to get itself going, and it has to end up hitting on all cylinders as well, because usually with this, it is difficult, but I really do think the Pittsburgh Steelers will figure out a way in which to really narrow this and be better than what last year truthfully gave us. So I think the Steelers could still be competitive, but the quarterback position is what really questions me a lot. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. So as Joe Burrow, of course, he's obviously, having a good time with himself and, really kind of getting around town and hanging out with a lot of really great people and even going up and on dates. Good for him. I like it. But Joe Burrow also is dealing with the dysfunctions of what the Cincinnati Bengals have been doing for a long time now. Now, I know a lot of people have mixed opinions about what the Bengals have been doing in their off seasons, but I also am a firm believer that there's a way in which that they could honestly end up readjusting this. I really love the fact that they went in defense on their free agency because they needed to do that. And Joe Burrow had also expressed about that a lot, where defensively, this team couldn't even hold up the points. They couldn't end up getting a lot of pressures and stopping the run. All it was Trey Hendrickson getting more sacks than it was of stopping the ground game, because a lot of these offenses still continued to stay out on the field. And Joe Burrow couldn't get out onto the field on the offense and get it to a lot of his big-time receivers and a lot of his big-time weapons. So now I start to look at as well, because Joe Mixon, he ended up getting released by the Houston Texans. Is there a potential reunion that could come back for him and the Bengals? Because to me, I think with having Chase Brown there, good pass catcher, somebody that gives you a lot of really good rushes. But if you add in somebody like Joe Mixon on a short deal, then to me, I think you get your veteran runner back. I also do believe that it opens up a little bit more of the offenses. So Cincinnati's actually kind of in a good spot, and which is where Joe Burrow had been harping about this for the last couple of years. And you've got to end up working with this, because if Joe gets hurt again, they'll probably end up drafting a quarterback. But if you don't end up addressing the things that he wants and needs, then that's where the Bengals truthfully will show you their true colors about how cheap and how they really don't address a lot of the things that, what they should for their star quarterback. And that's disappointing. It just tells you a lot about how cheap that they can be. Now, another thing is the Cleveland Browns, they've got a lot of work to do as far as their offensive lines, because a lot of their starters ended up leaving for the free agency. And that was one of the things that I thought from that point on, they really are going to try to address the offensive line in the draft, which is possible, and then maybe get themselves a receiver if that becomes the case. So I really do think there's a lot of that we could see could change in Cleveland. But you also have to look at, is my quarterback going to be Shedeur Sanders? And how is that really all going to work out? I don't mind Shedeur being the quarterback as long as he's got that direction that's consistent for him. I would love nothing more than that, because to me, if you got your star quarterback and the last thing you need is much more, dysfunction and all the rest of it, then to me, I would truthfully try to work on the quarterback that I have and lead him in the positive direction, so that I don't end up having to go and draft another quarterback, especially in an organization that doesn't really do well with quarterbacks anyway. So I would try to work with Shedeur Sanders up and on that. But defensively, they've got a very good core. Carson Schlesinger, I thought, was a really, really good rookie that they nailed in the draft. And then you also have the Baltimore Ravens, who now, without Max Crosby, and they've got Trey Hendrickson, they do have a pure pass rusher. And the other thing is that they believe Justin Metabike will be healthy, and they'll have run stuffers up front to really stop the run. Now, they did end up getting a lot of pieces that's gone elsewhere, but a lot of this has to deal with Lamar Jackson getting his contract restructured and getting his contract extension signed, so that then all the stress is off the table. And Baltimore, then now they have a new head coach in Jesse Minter. Who knows what that's going to look like, because I loved his defensive philosophy and what he did with the Chargers next to Jim Harbaugh, but what will he do as a head coach? So lots of question marks in that. But I think the state of the AFC West or the AFC North is really going to change up very drastically, because it always usually is a dog-eat-dog division, because they're very physical. They kind of beat and batter themselves every single year. But the Steelers, we got to figure out their quarterback. The Bengals, is the defense going to be a lot better than what it's been in the last couple of years, and ever since Jesse Bates ended up departing? Not to mention, Geno Stone, he's now with the Buffalo Bills. Cleveland, can they finally find a direction for themselves that we know can really help them out a lot more? And especially with Myles Garrett, he's got his contract, so he's not complaining from there. And then as far as Baltimore, what are they going to look like as an entire unit? Are you going to run the football more often with Derrick Henry of what you basically have acquired? And you've been saying over the last few years that this is what you needed him to do. I mean, there's lots of questions. And who knows? It could look very different up from there. But all I'm saying is that in the end, this division, it will be competitive to a T, but it really will look completely different as far as lots of their units. Because now Trey Hendrickson is in Baltimore, still stays in this division, but there's going to be lots of changes up from here. So who knows? I really do think that if there's a chance, if Pittsburgh nails their quarterback, they may have a fighting chance. If Baltimore, they continue up and they get better from what last year, unfortunately, really unraveled because of defensive injuries. And then not to mention not running the football on crucial spots. That's another thing that's really hurt them a lot. And, Cincinnati, can the defense be a lot better than what it's been in the last few years? So lots of things to consider. There's lots of questions, but I'm confident enough. I think this division will have different changes, but it's also going to be one we'll have to wait and see what the competitive levels look like on all ends and on all four of these teams in the division and who becomes the AFC North champions after Pittsburgh ended up winning it last year. Time for the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
All right, so lots of news that had surrounded in the NFL, and especially with our free agent marker. So just recently, the Kansas City Chiefs, who we know are going to be without Patrick Mahomes after last year tearing his ACL and having to get it repaired. So now they have reached out to the New York Jets, and they have acquired quarterback Justin Fields to the Chiefs for a 2027 sixth-round pick. So Justin Fields now is going to end up backing up Patrick Mahomes, but it's only going to be about a 2 to 3 game stint because they anticipate Patrick to be back on week 4. So I think this is interesting for a few reasons because Eric Bieniemy, we know, very clever offensive coordinator. He's going to be handling everything up on the offensive side with the help of Andy Reid as well as the head coach. But I do think with this offense, you are going to see a little bit of a transformation with Justin Fields, where he'll be running with a lot of his athleticism. Hopefully he can learn a little bit more as far as just as a passer, but that's the one thing that I think is going to be the interesting part. So I think truthfully, it's going to be interesting to watch, but Justin Fields, since he had been there in his days in October, when Woody Johnson blamed the team's 0-7 start on Justin Fields, it was just a crucial mess. It was so bad, and I think for Justin, I think getting into the building and learning from at least the best of the best really does help out. I don't see anything wrong with this. So I think Justin Fields, he came out from Chicago, who was a mess, and then goes to the Jets, who were a mess, Pittsburgh. I mean, they were trying to glue things together of what was working and what wasn't, and then goes and now with the Jets, no longer needed of services, and now going to Kansas City to really help out Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So the San Francisco 49ers earlier ended up signing Mike Evans to a 3-year contract deal, and now they've added another veteran wide receiver into the group as Christian Kirk now heads to San Francisco on a 1-year deal. For the second time in a week that the Niners have added a veteran receiver to their room, and Christian Kirk is on their way there. So the deal is up for $6 million for 1 year. And after the Niners ended up signing Mike Evans 3 years, 42.5, this is interesting because now they are departure. Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Kendrick Bourne, and Sky Moore. And now they've come up with Mike Evans, Ricky Pearsall, probably Jacob Cowing if that becomes the case. And then now with Christian Kirk. This is really going to be interesting for Brock Purdy and this offense, and not to mention Kyle Shanahan really working up with the offense, what they're trying to run up. And I think it's interesting. I think, to me, the Niners will look completely different up and on offense. And, of course, they're going to be running the football. George Kittle, hopefully on a healthy season. And then they've also got a really good backup at the end of it. So San Francisco is really utilizing a lot of the players that have really good potential, but have been dealing with injuries after injuries. And so now coming into a place that basically takes in a lot of these injury-riddled players and really turning things around, I think San Francisco might look a lot better. I think that the Niners, they made it into the postseason. Now, this is tough because they go from the easiest schedule in the NFL to close to about the top 10 toughest. So San Francisco's got a lot to think about, but health is the biggest thing. And hopefully without Robert Saleh now in the building and they bring in Raheem Morris, I think the defense will look completely different, but hopefully it's on the best possible ways for them to be in the right direction. And then finally, the Philadelphia Eagles, who we knew that they surrounded this topic with Dallas Goedert as their future tight end. And now they have agreed to a 1-year, $7 million contract. This was yesterday. And so their star tight end is staying after a midst of trade talks. Now, who knows? This might still have the trade talks on their minds. But with as far as what the Eagles are concerned about, because they have paid up their defensive players, they paid up a lot of their big-time players where they really are looking to secure their future in that department. So, but I trust that Howie Roseman will do the right things. Not to mention they got Tariq Woolen. I think they've got a really good secondary help to really help out with where they're at. And I truthfully think the Eagles continue to be competitive. And I do believe that with this move, it will definitely change up a lot. So I think with Dallas Goedert, they really are going to be utilizing this. They're going to utilize a lot of just what he has left in the tank. Now, remember, they could be in the talks to potentially draft Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, but that's going to probably take a bit of moves to find themselves in that position. But with Howie Roseman, there's no question he's going to end up making a deal happen. All right, that was the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the hot press.
So over the week and the weekend last week, the Tennessee Titans have unveiled their newest uniforms. And, I mean, I like them. I think it looks good. Brings back the old Houston and Tennessee Oilers look to them. And they've teased that a couple times. I was wondering really like what kind of like was the whole thing behind the, the look, the design. So the Tennessee Titans now are definitely going back to looking like themselves as the Tennessee Oilers. So again, I like the uniform look, but I like even more of just what they have addressed. Because to me, the Tennessee Titans are a very aggressive organization, and they had to be after all these years where these moves, kind of the direction of where they were going. So to give for our audiences, I apologize for our radio audiences who could not end up seeing it, but I'm sure you got Instagram. You guys could look it up. But these are the unis. This is what they look like. Look at Cam Ward. Looking clean. Love it. And then not to mention the baby blues like this. It's more of that Titan blue, they called it. So I like it. To me, I think the Tennessee Titans and the moves they've addressed, they've really gotten some good guys. And so they like Tony Adams up from here. My biggest thing is Robert Saleh. He is definitely going to work up his side of the ball. Get a pass rusher, get some really good defensive players, and not to mention even some guys of who he also coached with out in New York. So you get Jermaine Johnson, who comes into the building. So this is the work they did. Jermaine Johnson, Jordan Elliott, Alontae Taylor, and they've also got Austin Schlottman, Cordell Flott, John Franklin Myers, Cordell Dawson, Joshua Williams, Daniel Bellinger, Wan'Dale Robinson, Mitch Trubisky, Solomon Thomas, and then the list continues to go on from there. They got some very impactful players. I really like, too. They got Jacob Martin from Washington. They re-signed a couple players. So it's funny because it actually comes down to the New York connection between Saleh and with Brian Dable, because Dable brings in Wan'Dale Robinson, and he also brings in Daniel Bellinger, a couple people, and I think it makes sense. And to me, they really want to work this up. They really want to turn this organization around, and if they made a big mistake. They made a big mistake letting the big fish and Mike Vrabel go. Clearly, they were going down under. And not to mention Brian Callahan, when I talked with Blaine Bishop earlier, he was very overwhelmed by this. Very overwhelming. So I don't blame the previous coaching that really what it looked like, because we kind of knew what Brian Callahan was. So I think this is a good chance. This is a very good chance for the Titans to really shape some things up in the AFC South, because the Texans, there's been all these rumors about CJ Stroud where they don't even know if he's going to honestly be himself. Then you also have the Colts where they let Michael Pittman go. Kwity Paye is gone. Zaire Franklin is gone. Almost their entirety of the defense is all gutted. So I don't know. I think, even with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they won the division last year, and I think they are a very, very good competitive team with Liam Cohen and what he's been able to do. So there's lots to really think about with Tennessee. But I think, usually with new uniforms with teams, I start to think about this. This is kind of how superstitious I am with this, is I sometimes think that new unis often get the best out of teams. They really do. As funny as you could think of it. So when you get these new things, usually you got the right coach, you got the right quarterback, and you got a whole entire unit. I think it works out very, very well. Take a quick break. Carter Caps around the corner as USA back into the final for the third straight year. We'll discuss a little bit more about that here up and on the show.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Welcome back here up onto the Snake Sports Talk Show. What a week that we have. NFL free agency, WBC, and also March Madness up and around the corner, NBA action. I could not complain about how crazy the week is getting. So the World Baseball Classic stage is almost set. We've got Italy and Venezuela tonight, and the United States move on to the finals. So to join us to talk more about what ended up going on in the game, and also former major leaguer, knows a lot of things about having a strong bullpen on your side, Carter Cabs joins us on the program.
Hey, how's it going?
Third straight year, going good. Third straight year, Team USA is in the final. They won it last time in 2017. They came up close in 23, and now they're back up and into this thing. But I want to ask you, because this was really, really crucial, and I've been telling people this all the time, is if you don't understand the game of chess, 9 out of 10 times, you won't understand what crucial grinding situations will feel like, even in life situations such as last night. I mean, look, they played a very stacked Dominican Republic team on their lineup who have been outrunning a lot of different teams in the pool play. But then they come in, and the United States, Paul Skeens gives them 5 quality innings, and then they tap in the bullpen, which was left scoreless. I can make an argument. Fernando Tatis, what is he doing in the baselines? There was times where I think he could have taken advantage of it, but mentally blocked him. And then same thing even with Austin Wells, but I think truthfully, I don't think he would have even made it at home plate with that way the ball was coming. So then to end on a play in which I got to ask you as a former pitcher, because sometimes this is crucial. Did it cross the plane and then went down? Or did it kind of seem like this was really out of the zone? This could have changed the whole trajectory of this game.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, I thought the ball was down, right? Like I really like to get that call, but I don't feel like you get that call very often, especially, he had been leaving some arm side sliders in that at bat, in that inning. He hadn't landed the slider, hadn't really shown that he could. Usually you don't get that call, especially as soon as the umpire sees spin. It's been ball. Like you kind of assume ball, and then that low ball, you always get blocked out a little bit by the umpire because you're kind of peeking over the catcher. But Smith did a really good job catching it, but that ball's down, right? I mean, I think everybody knows it.
Yeah, and so I think about this because there's been many talks about the automated strike zones, and I think this influences it even more. Some different TV programs have taken away where like the actual trajectory box is supposed to be. But I think this furthers influence the conversation about automated strike zones after what we just seen, because it's not only that it's the worldly stage that you're under, but think about it when we're in the postseason and then we get into the World Series. So I think this really motivated that conversation and really want to roll this out as quick as possible, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of the fans, when the ABS was mentioned, it's kind of, 50-50, 60-40, maybe liked it, didn't. And then I haven't seen anybody coming out and saying, oh, yeah, I love the, love the fact that we kind of stole that one. They're like, oh, yeah, we kind of got away with one there. Like everybody knows it. So I think you have instant replay and Hawkeye and other sports. So I think it's just a natural progression of the game, especially like we're not making the whole game ABS, right? We're saving us a few challenges for key, pivotal moments in the game. Mm-hmm. I think that makes a lot of sense. It'd be like a lot like the NFL, right? Save your challenges. If you burn them too early, hey, that's on you, right? But I think that's just a natural progression of the game. Especially if you're not going to relegate umpires to the minor leagues or stuff based on score, right? So like, mm-hmm. Yes, the playoff umpires are supposed to be a little bit better and have a little bit better scores throughout the year. But, largely it's a lot of those same old guys in there that we've seen for years and years. So just understanding that, hey, everybody has a regression, right?
Lastly, before discussing, the Major League Baseball season. So I was thinking about this because we had the 2017 team that I thought was really unstoppable. They had a great lineup. Pitching staff I thought was immaculate, and it came all the way down to where they just dominated Puerto Rico. But now we look at this year, I can make the argument, Carter. I look at the lineup, and usually you got stars like Aaron Judge, Bryce Harper, and Gunnar Henderson. These guys are capable of putting the runs up. But I think, too, there's a little bit of this divide in this aspect is many people like watching the NFL. They want to watch the runs get scored up to the max, where to me, I'm like, look, I want to get a guy on base. I want to keep the offense out there up and onto the field to rattle the pitcher's cage, because then we can take them out the mound and they can tap into their bullpen and wear them out next. So I think when you get a game like this, I didn't see a whole lot of offenses other than Gunnar Henderson and Roman Anthony's home runs. But especially when we're going back into the final, this has to be crucial to where if we hit the 4 or 5 run mark and trust a lot on our bullpen to bail us out on these innings, I think we may have a chance to win gold. Like, what do you think that takes to really hoist the trophy this year?
Yeah, the back end of the bullpen's been big for him. I know Bednar's looked great. The whole tournament, he's had a ton of outings. Rogers looked great last night. Miller looked great for the most part. So, yeah, I think the back end of the bullpen's pretty set, right? There's no bad arms back there. They're all throwing, 95-plus with plus sweep, right, except for Rogers. But, yeah, I think we have a lot of swing and miss in the lineup is what you're seeing, right? Like, even, Crow Armstrong had 30 bombs last year, right? Like, there's just a lot of swing and miss. There's a lot of, like, hey, let's go play for the doubles. And you just don't see a lot of guys in their lineup that are kind of geared toward the small ball aspect. So I don't know that it's going to be a get them on, get them over, get them in type thing, but I think they're going to play for, a few walks in one big inning. I think you're going to have a blast from somebody in that lineup just because it's so big. But I think it'll be more of, the AL style ball that we've been seeing, right? Like just out slug everybody and then, have your burners in the back. But I don't think we're going to see a lot of, small ball, get them over, hit and run, type things. Whereas you got to give the credit to, the Dominican guys. I mean, they weren't really, some of them were taking some pretty selfless hacks up there too, right? I mean, some of them were definitely shortening up in that game where maybe you don't see them do that in a normal major league game over 162 games. But yeah, it was a little bit interesting, just the differences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was thinking about this because many people, it was a topic of which, like, it obviously was the topic about Randy Arozarena and Cal Raleigh. Okay. And here's my thing. You played in this sport for as long as you have, and you know the competitive side that it can get. To me personally, I didn't have a problem with this for a few reasons, because number one is that, we go back to when, Kobe and Powell back in the Olympics for basketball, where Kobe really wanted to just drill him in the chest, and he did. And then you come back to Los Angeles, you have a few beers, you probably go and get some ice cream, you talk it out, you hash it out later. To me, many people get this misconstrued because unless you swung a bat, unless you pitched the ball, unless if you put pads on, or you ran the ball to where you're going and scoring a bucket, that's the competitive nature, in my opinion. And I think when you're in that stage, listen, respect you. You're my teammate. Right now, we're in a different mode because I want to win for the United States as you want to win for Mexico. And then we'll just come back and be buddies when we get back to Seattle by the time that we're ready to start the season. So what did you make of that moment? Because to me, I didn't have a problem with it. I think many people kind of took it in different ways. And sometimes it can get misconstrued, but I understood the competitive nature because both these guys want to win.
Yeah, same kind of thing as you, right? Like when I'm out there, I'm a killer, right? I think I'm the best in the world, right? I want to go out there with that attack mindset. Like I'm not your buddy, I'm not your pal, I'm not out there trying to make friends. So if they're on different teams, I got no problem with it, right? Like I think it got way blown out of proportion. If the guy didn't want to shake his hand, he didn't want to shake his hand, right? They're professionals. They're not necessarily buddies, right? Like sometimes you play with guys that you don't necessarily like. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But like, hey, this is a business, right? Like I'm out here to try to win. I'm trying to, provide for my family. So like, I don't really care right now. I hope you don't get hurt and I hope you have a great game, but I hope it's, we beat you, right? So it's like, I don't think I didn't really care one way or the other, but I definitely didn't side with like, oh yeah, man, he really got screwed over there. He made him look bad. It's like, hey, if you didn't want to shake your hand, like get in the box, let's go. Like we're trying to play a game.
Yeah. So you played amongst this organization in Seattle, and I'll make the argument. I mean, they were very close, but came up short against Toronto. And Toronto was a team that led the league in hits, and rightfully so. They made it into the World Series as they did. But I think this Mariners team, this is a very hungry organization that we know that the West right now is completely looking different. We don't know how Houston's going to look like. The A's got some young star power, but even they have some question marks, and the Angels, forget about it. So Seattle, this is an opportunity for them to take the next step. And I think, does that also mean that they go and get another player to be the icing on the cake for their roster in the trade deadline and really push forward of, look, we were this close in the championship to make it to our first World Series appearance. How do you see this panning out for this organization? Because it's been a long time coming for them. I love the hype. I love what all these players and what the coaching staff's been able to do. But I think if they get one more one more in this. I think you can make the argument this is a team that nobody wants any business playing against.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think too. Last year they kind of had a down year for their pitching, right? I mean, they got a big five going right now. They got really good arms out of the pen. They have really good pitching development. Like they got more guys in the minors coming up. I think their pitching is going to be a little bit better than it was last year. I mean, the previous year I think it was top 3, top 2 in the league the whole year. So I mean, I think we'll see a little bit more consistency out of those starters. Are a little bit more aged. As long as all those guys stay healthy, and then you add a piece or two late maybe. With a swing guy, but I think, the bats are always going to be, what's going to tell, right? Like when we get to the playoffs, like, I mean, they should, win the AL West outright, right? There shouldn't be any qualms about that. And if they're not, significantly up in the AL West at the trade deadline, you might see them as sellers, right? Because like, hey, what's going on? But yeah, I expect them to fully be, 4 or 5 games up at least by the trade deadline. And add that back because, what do you see in the playoffs, right? You see really, really good pitching. Like you have to be able to hit good pitching. You have to be able to hit 95 plus, right? If you don't score any in the last 3 innings of the game, like you're not going to win a lot of games. Like you're going to have to be able to hit those premium arms because everybody has them. And I think that's what you see. Toronto does really well, right? Yeah. Like Toronto is bat to ball. Like we're not going to strike out. We're going to be bat to ball. We're going to, bang around the yard a little bit, and then we're going to go first to third right in front of your face, in front of the outfielders, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a smart way of going about it because in the end, you're going to get your offense up and in there as everybody's clicking, and then not to mention when the bullpen and the arms are ready to roll and they're ready to get out of the inning frames, then that's where you really have to play a lot of quality control at the end of it because you want to be able to win the game and get the last say at the end of the ninth. So interestingly enough, because I think this team, the Padres, I was very impressed with them making the moves as they have over the last few years, acquiring in guys. But then as time has trickled on, I mean, this was a team that got this close against the Phillies until the Phillies just had so much overpowered stars there that there was just no chances on it. So I feel like, I don't know if this is really just the last big ride for them, but something has to give in this organization because Tatis is a star. Many of their guys, they have the right pieces, but oftentimes I question, does the starting rotation need a little more help? Does the bullpen need 1 or 2 more guys? I try to spot it and I can't figure it out, but I feel like this has to be where some serious shakeups need to happen in San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, they're really going up against the wall with that Dodgers lineup too, right? Like you're playing them multiple times a year. The NL West is going to run through them every year. Has for the last decade. So I think you're seeing like an arms race there where it's like, hey, we have to beat the Dodgers. Like we don't just have to beat the other 29 teams. Like we got to beat the Dodgers if we're going to go deep into the playoffs at all, right? Because we have to win out. And then you don't want to always be playing for a wild card. They have some money tied up in some, big names and, have those big names necessarily done it when, it was clutch time? Not yet. Right. So you're going to have somebody come up and get a big hit at the big moment. Right. Like you have money. Everybody wants to play in San Diego. Like it's a beautiful area. Pitching there, I thought was a little bit easier with the, marine layer or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's a big yard, so you're always pitching in warm weather. Everybody wants to go. So no, I think, it's a place where you could get some free agents, but you got to get them there. Right. And you got to pay them. Right. Because you got California taxes. Right. So you got to overpay them a little bit to keep them. So it's just, do they want to go up there and pay that luxury tax? Right. Do they want to go out there and actually make that push? Or do they want to, kind of be playing for second in the NL West every year? Because right now the Dodgers are, kind of showing you what the platform is, right? Win and, you're in and you get your, TV dollars. And if you don't, then you're going to be in that mid-tier stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. I've grown up. So baseball was always my first love growing up. I remember watching it a lot when I was up and in diapers and then all the way through, I watched how the game evolves and such. So I had a chance to watch you play. And to me, I got to ask this question because it was a fun conversation because of just, your pitching delivery, which really threw a lot of people off. I got to ask because I want to know what really was kind of the mechanic behind that because of just, the footing, where it landed. And then did you kind of feel you had a little more oomph behind it? Like your fastball had more velocity, my control of my slider, did it give me more turn and more dip? Like, what really went behind that? Because to me, that was the most unique style of pitching I'd ever seen. But if it worked and it got you out of pitching innings, I'll take it all day.
I've actually never had that question before. No. Yeah, I get that one all the time. Yeah, so I actually pitched pretty traditionally before, and I would say I threw harder before. But I had a couple UCL tears, and I didn't have surgery. So they were like, hey, if you can pitch to the pain, you can keep playing. Otherwise, we're going to have to give you surgery because, like, we know it's hurting, but it's not torn. The velo is still coming out. So I had a couple of those over the course of a few years. Was still kind of playing through it and battling through it. And just like one off season, it was like, it was hurting really, really bad. And, I would go to play catch and I just felt like I was just like stabbing, really not wanting to get my arm up on time, kind of guarding it, kind of protecting it a little bit. And that, you get later in the off season, it's time to get off the bump. Right. So it's like, all of a sudden I'm late, right? My arm's way late. I'm not on top of the baseball. Arm side sail misses all day. So it's like, well, I got to buy time to get my arm up, right? Like, it's janky in the back right now. It's stabbing and stalling out. I got to find time. So like the stride just gradually is getting elongated. It's like, okay, well, if I can keep my weight back long enough to buy that time, then all of a sudden I get up on time and I'm ready to go. Then I come to spring, it looks way different, obviously, but I'm throwing strikes, throwing hard. So everybody's like, oh, keep doing it, and then, all the whole stuff came out about the rule changes and all that. But yeah, it was honestly just a progression of where it's like, I know I got to be up on top of the baseball, power it downhill. I can't be underneath it. And I was not getting there because, I had kind of been protecting my arm all off season, trying to, not really let it go. And then, it's go time. And, like I said, well, if it hurts, it hurts, but I'm going to still throw hard downhill. And that's kind of where it came in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't say the stuff was any better. I would say obviously being closer to the plate helped a lot as far as reaction time for the guys. But like velo wise, like I was pretty similar before and after. I'd say I lost maybe a tick. But and then the slider, I always had a little bit slower slider for my arm speed. So that kind of gave it a little bit more play, I felt like. But no, I mean, the pitch shapes are largely similar.
Yeah, because I thought, like with the back half, right? Because a lot of that twist from potential to kinetic energy to throwing it forward, and that makes a lot of sense, especially with the injuries that you've had and rehabbing them to try to get it back to where you might not have it back from where you were before, but at least making it better to where you didn't have a lot of uncomfortability. It kind of felt natural a little more to you. But I just was like, man, seeing that and just like, okay, this is interesting. I've never seen this kind of style before because usually it's always movement with the legs, it's movement with the arms, but then to have the whole body shift in order to do that, like I was pretty impressed by that. So yeah, so I'm looking here on your spot. You do a lot of hunting nowadays, man. Like, is there?
I dabble. I dabble.
Yeah. Have you had a world record you broke of like one that like you caught during season?
Well, you don't catch animals aren't catch and release, unfortunately. But I got a Pope and Young black bear. So it's like you go into like a kind of a book of like a minimum requirement. So I got a Pope and Young black bear. So I mean, that's ones I got with archery. Shot some elk and stuff, but yeah, nothing like near world record, obviously. But yeah, no, I got a few Boone and Crockett's and a few Pope and Young. So like that's like a high end, like big animal.
Oh, there you go. See, I'm trying to tap into getting into the hunting, portions of things. Like I mostly do a lot of fishing. So I've heard a lot of great things about it. And of course, too, with the tags and, the regulations up and onto it. But in the end of the day, it's like it's such an adrenaline rush every time when you get the best catches. And not to mention the meat, when it's cleaned up, it's also good eating. Some venison meat and, deer, elk, like it's the best.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's what I really do. Like at the end of the day, like if you don't get anything, like I always tell people the worst part of hunting is like actually shooting the animal. Because that sucks, right? But like the everything after the work, like the time put in, the scouting, right? Because you're essentially going into an animal's house, right? That's like much better adapted at surviving it than you are, right? I was telling somebody the other day, like I was archery elk hunting this past year. And this elk, like I see him at like 60 yards, like he's within range, but he like just starts walking up the mountain. It's like, and he's walking faster than I can run up. Like once they're gone, like moving, like you'll never catch them from behind, right? Like they're just so, they cover so much ground. They're in like unbelievable shape, how quickly they can go up a valley and up a mountain and over a peak. So it's just insane. It's like a lot of chess, right? Like, well, I see him now. I think this is where he's going. I got to beat him there. If I don't beat him there, like it's game over. So it's always that part's, kind of fun, a little bit more like almost like pitching, right? Like a little bit of, well, if I do this, like he's going to respond this way. And if I do this, he's going to respond this way. Like, how can I get him to where I want him to be,
Yeah, ain't it funny that it correlates, pretty easily like that? That's where I'm like, man, life is always full of surprises, and somehow it leads back into, all the situations that we're so used to. So, Carter, appreciate you for coming on by, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. Go Team USA. We'll see what the final has in store with us. Italy, Venezuela, who you taking that USA has a chance to beat?
I'd really like to see him play Italy again. God, Italy's been on fire. I would love to see it again. I think Venezuela's really good, but I think Italy's the team to beat right now. And I think that would be a really good matchup. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be rooting for the Italians. It's going to be a fun night here tonight. Take care of yourself. Enjoy it, and we'll see what tomorrow gives us. And hopefully we'll see Team USA hoist the trophy once again in the World Baseball Classic. Take care of yourself, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. There you go. Italy, Venezuela tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tune in for that on all of your local listings up and on Fox. It's going to be a lot of fun. All righty, guys, we're going to be taking it off here tonight. Sports Talk Show. Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon.